the holiday break, a new poll indicated that a majority of Americans not only support the impeachment of Donald Trump, they also support the removal of Trump during the Senate trial. So to give you the details on this poll, which was done by MSN, 55% of those asked said they were in favor of the US president's conviction by the Senate, a figure which has shot up from 48% the week before. Meanwhile, the number of people against Trump's removal has dropped to an all-time low, according to the MSN poll. On Christmas Day, 40% were opposed to the Senate voting to convict the president. I want to be clear that this is one poll. There have been other polls that are concerning for me, including some that indicate that Trump has experienced a rise in his approval rating. I don't know if that's because of what's happening with the impeachment investigation, but you would expect that if the majority of Americans are in favor of removing him, then his approval rating wouldn't increase. But let me give you more. The gap between the two views has become much wider since last week, when there was little to no divide then. So it was 48% in favor of Trump's removal, 47% against. So as you can see, the number has moved up considerably when it comes to wanting to remove Donald Trump.
I think I have an explanation. But before we get to that, 55 to 40 is unreal. The press has this weird relationship with Donald Trump. Do they criticize him? Yes. Do they call out some of his fabrications? Yes, they do, okay? But having said that, they have this weird awe and respect of him. They're like, oh, Donald Trump, he's some sort of titan that no matter what happens, he's still popular. But he's not. If any other president had a poll where 55% of the country wants to impeach him and remove him from office, the press would savage them as not just unpopular, but weak. Imagine if Jimmy Carter had a poll like that. I mean, they absolutely destroyed Jimmy Carter with no such poll, right? In fact, Jimmy Carter was, for most of his presidency, popular. He was but the pressers are like, oh, Donald Trump, he could beat anybody. Oh my God, how could Elizabeth Warren possibly beat Donald Trump? Oh my God, there was a thing about Native American, oh, Donald Trump. The guy, 55% of the country says kick his ass out. We hate the guy. We hate him, kick his ass out. Remove him from office today, not in the election. Impeach it and convict. And yet the press is like, oh, Donald Trump. He's a loser, for God's sake, be clear about it. Call him weak, that's what he is, but they never do that. They only do that for Democrats, they never do it for Republicans. All right, now, why the big movement? Here, look, I love this talking point being put out, and if I was biased and I wasn't doing my job, honestly, I'd tell you this is it, and I'd be ecstatic about it. David Rothschild, who is referencing the polling, said, this polling is a clear sign that Republican policy of complete obstruction is not selling well to the voting public. I wish that were true. If that's true, that's great, because then the Republicans might stop obstructing, they might put some witnesses up, etc. Honestly, I don't think that's it, because they've been obstructing from day one, and the poll was 48-47 last week. So what changed last week? Well, two things changed. I think one is more important than the other. One was how we went after John Dingell and said he might be in hell, okay? Now, a lot of the media gave him very negative attention to that, okay, including conservatives. But the second one I think is even larger. It was a Christianity Today post saying, if you're a real evangelical, this guy's clearly immoral. And I said at the time, that's a giant difference maker, because it bursts their bubble. It goes into the bubble of the people who think Trump is right about everything. And within the bubble, it says, no, guys, you're not the one who took the crazy pill. If you think he looks and acts totally immoral, you're right. And so it was like a big moment, like for a lot of people in that circle to go, yeah, right? No, we're not supposed to be for the guy who cheats on his wife with porn stars while they're pregnant. We're not supposed to be for this guy who's a liar and a cheat, right? Which we all know he's a liar and a cheat and a fraud, right?
Well, it does break the cycle of groupthink, because remember, your political ideology, and especially if you're deep into politics, it turns into a community issue, right? If your political views and the community that you're part of that holds the same political views, you want to be part of that family, you want to be part of that community, and speaking out against it, that takes a lot of courage, because you could be rejected by your community. So to have someone part of your community speak out against Trump kind of warrants you to be a little more independent thinking when it comes to Trump.
Yeah, so those two events had a bigger impact. One, because it went to his base, and that's why the numbers moved. Because you couldn't move the numbers past his base, but now you're moving into his base because they didn't like that talk about how a US congressman might be in hell after he passed away earlier this year and his wife is grieving and he attacked his wife that way. That's a little bit of a religious thing. And then Christianity Today coming in, well, that made it a twofer right away. And in both of those cases, Republicans, not all Republicans, but some Republicans came out and said, yeah, that's true, right? Especially in the Dingell case. So that's why the numbers moved. So I think when they look back at Trump's presidency, I think the two most underrated events that hurt his popularity was withdrawing from northern Syria and abandoning the Kurds. That's number one. And I think the Christianity Today post is much bigger than people realize because it got coverage everywhere, including inside his own bubble. And so that's why the numbers have moved. And guys, 55 to 40, that's a 15-point difference on not just a slight issue, not how is he doing on healthcare or trade, and these are big issues overall. Not on, I mean, this is on impeach and remove from office, and it's a 15-point gulf. He's in massive, massive trouble. The media needs to start acting like it. The Democratic Party starts to act like it. And look, if the Republican Party doesn't want to acknowledge it, great, you vote with him and risk your careers. But the Democrats have to pounce on that and make them pay the price. That's where oftentimes things fall short.